something stronger at the bar. Facilities out to my right. We want to endeavour to answer your questions as best we can. There'll be a microphone available, so when you want to speak, please wait for the microphone so everybody can hear your question. And there'll be plenty of time for you to ask a second question, but what we try to do is make sure as many people get a chance to answer a question as possible. So without further ado, I'll hand over to you and the first question. Thank you.
Please, Olivia, quiet now. There's nothing to grumble about.
Faint heart, never won a fair lady. Thanks, Alex, and everybody concerned with what you're doing with the team and everything. It's fantastic that pride is back in Preston. Just like to wonder, with the recent thing with Stoke, you made a complaint with the EFL about their approach, and why have you dropped it now? If I may ask that, I don't know if you can answer it, but thank you anyway.
What happened with Stoke City was that on Friday afternoon, I got a phone call from Stoke and said, could I have permission to talk to Alex? And I said that we got a very big game on Sunday, and that we were due to travel on Saturday, and I didn't want to have any conversation with Stoke City until such time as A, we got the game out of the way, and B, I'd have the opportunity to talk to Alex in the right environment and get a view. On Saturday, I was driving to this station to meet up with the team to travel, and TalkSport put a statement out saying Stoke City had confirmed that they would be appointing Alex on the Monday morning. To which I phoned in no particular order, Alex, and half shouted at him, Stoke City and definitely shouted at them, and then we put the press statement out. And I felt at that stage, we all understand what goes on when they try and talk to people or not talk to people, and I'm not naive, but I thought that the statement on TalkSport was totally out of order and to put Stoke on notice of the intention to report them. I then phoned Rick Parry, who's the newly appointed chair of the EFL, and again put Rick on notice that we intended to take it further. Given the conversation I had with Alex on the Saturday night at the team hotel, and the fact we could put a statement out that was definitive, that made everybody relax and settle down, I saw no particular purpose in taking it any further on the Monday morning, because what was the loss? The manager was staying with us. Stoke hadn't behaved as I would have hoped, but I'm sure we all, with the benefit of hindsight, have done things in our lives that we'd probably like to do better. But the fact we put them on notice that we would, if we needed to, was sufficient. So I thought we handled it quickly, efficiently, appropriately, and I still think it was appropriate to have put them on notice, but then accept that we all wanted to move on with our lives.
Question for Alex. You last year, when I believe you signed your new contract, you made a comment, and I think I'm slightly paraphrasing, that you weren't precious about your training methods and that you're going to get some independent view of them if any changes needed to be made. So could I ask you, did that happen, and what changes did you make?
Yeah, it wasn't necessarily about the training methods, it was more about the injuries we picked up, the area of the injuries we picked up, the sort of everything we did really from top to bottom. So it wasn't really a case of not being precious about training methods, because I've got a structured sort of way of doing things, but I think like anything you need to adapt, and they have adapted since day one really. So I've been coaching and managing now, certainly first team level, for about 7 years. And what I started doing initially in the first week to what I do now is very, very different. And I think it continues to evolve. I mean, you need to keep evolving all the time. So yeah, it was mainly just around injuries as much as anything else. It wasn't really to do with the training methods, albeit both of them sort of lead into each other. But we just come up with, I think the players that, and we've discussed this before, me and Peter, at length, and I think I've mentioned it as well, in the fact that when we're recruiting players for maybe League 2 or Ireland or something like that, the intensity in which we train and play at is very, very different from what they're used to. So it takes a little bit of time for them to adjust, and it's always going to be the case that they're going to pick up niggles. What we try and do is make sure that the lads we do sign, position dependent obviously, as athletic as possible. So it allows us to play the way we want to play. So I think we've learned some lessons from it. I think the players are now more robust, more used to the training methods, hence the reason why I think our injury record this season has improved.
Thanks very much.
Just before we ask another question, I'd just like to say I'm sure everybody in the room wishes Eileen all the best in her recovery, because this is normally the time that she intervenes and says what a great job we're all doing. She's not here. So we're going to miss that tonight, so I'm sure we all wish her a speedy recovery.
Question for Alex. I've noticed on.
I saw her in hospital.
Alright.
She's getting a bit of speech, not speaking enough, but it's a bit better. And it just showed her out.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, a few of our staff would need to see her as well, but thank you. Sorry.
Okay. So, question for Alex. I've noticed on defending corners, you pull all the players back. Do you not think that leaving one player up, little Shawnee Maguire, just gives you an outlet?
Yeah, well, listen, there's two ways to look at it. We used to leave one player up. I think our record defensively for set plays, apart from the Bristol game this year, was, and up until that point, and I think even now, we were the best in the league at that point in terms of defending corners. And I think set plays are that important nowadays as well, in terms of not conceding that first goal. So I used to always leave one player up. You know, we led into sort of talking about evolving different things, and we looked at how other teams defended. We used to be man marking as well, and then we went to zonal, and our stats, zonal in comparison to man marking since I've been here, are drastically different in terms of defending. So when you're doing zonal, naturally you need to bring as many bodies back as you can, because you've got 3 to 4, potentially even 5 players at times filling areas and zones rather than picking players up. So I understand what you're saying. Based on the stats and the facts that we've got, we're better served bringing everyone back. It's served us better than what it had done previously, but it is something we've looked at.
Okay, thank you.
Big Dave here. Welcome to the hotbed of support, Alec, in Longridge. 99% Preston supporters. And a question for Peter: how much money have we made up to now this season, and how many games are you hoping we have on TV? And did we make any money off the City game? I've been told we made quite a bit.
When you say how much money have we made this season, you're just talking about TV games?
TV games, yeah. And how many are you hoping to have, and how blah blah blah.
Well, historically, the TV games in the Championship were a little skewed towards home fixtures. So until the end of last season, the home team used to get £100,000 for a live TV appearance, and the away team £10,000. And we have, over the last few years, only normally appeared twice on TV. I think it's been the odd occasion we've managed to get a third game in, versus Leeds United, who I think were on 24 times last season. And the 100,000 and 10,000 compares to 3 million for each team in the Premier League per live game. But at a meeting that Kevin and I were at with the Football League just before the end of last season, it was agreed that we would change the formula for this year, and I'm pleased we did, to £75,000 per home game and also £75,000 for an away game. As you all know, I think we've got 6 games scheduled for live TV between the start of the season and the Boxing Day game at Leeds United. I think that's right, Kev, isn't it? And therefore, clearly, that's by the time we've played all those 6, it will be 6 times £75,000. We do budget to be on TV, but not 6 times. So to the degree that we've beaten our budget, which we have, we will by the end of December be ahead of the game in that sense. What we don't budget to do is to be in the top 2 all season, and the players receive win bonuses based on league position. So whilst I'm delighted to say we're paying out plenty of bonuses because we're so high up in the league, we're praying that we get more TV games after Christmas to pay for it. In terms of the Manchester City fixture, obviously it wasn't on TV, which was disappointing from our perspective. So obviously all we got was a 45% share of the gate, because the way it works is each team get 45% and then 10% goes to the Football League. So it's the Football League Cup. And in round numbers, Kev, about 120,000, 130,000 we made from that game.
Can you just give us an update on the training ground, please?
I can sense your disappointment with what I'm about to say. On the new training ground, very little has happened since the last fans forum, where we reported that we'd moved the ownership of the training ground into the club. That development is essentially linked to a residential planning consent, which was well won with the support of many of you, for which we're grateful. But that actually is not fulfilled in terms of generating any cash to date, let alone any profit. To my knowledge, there are 2 builders who've got proposals in front of the planning authorities, and when they get through, they'll make a start and funds may flow. They'll flow into the company that belongs to Mr. Hemmings, and then from those monies, various planning conditions have to be met. So the funds for the existing training ground are not available to us as yet, and I think it will be some time before we make a start on that development, given the time that's taken so far. We have an existing training ground, and as time passes, we have to start thinking about whether that's out of date and whether that needs some attention. And in the summer, we spent about £250,000 upgrading one of the pitches at the existing training ground, and we're currently working on plans that would be a relatively significant improvement to that facility to, if you will, tide us over until we can think about the new one. And that's about where we are.
Just to add to what John said, 2 points really. The first of which is when we submitted the original planning consent on Ingle, it was said quite clearly in the documentation that the profit from the housing development was needed to pay for the Ingle development. And as John's already said, we have not yet seen, nor will we for some time, the profit from that, although we have spent £1.5 million on securing the land at Ingle for the football club. And as and when that eventually flows through, we'll then be in a position to obviously look at the income to be able to start on that. And again, as John just said, we have got plans which would upgrade substantially where we are at Springfields. And then as and when Ingle's finished, we would then be able to move the academy away from Euclan and move that into Springfields. But in the short term, we obviously need to enhance what we've got at Springfields for the first team. So those are the 2 elements of it.
Just while I'm on a roll, can you talk us through the fan zone as well? I'll leave there.
Well, again, I'm sorry to disappoint you, but basically on the fan zone, nothing has happened since we had the latest disappointment at the existing building. So a development of the a fan zone will probably depend on building it within the current Sir Tom Finney stand, and we're currently in discussions to try to get back the ground floor of that stand, which is actually leased to the National Football Museum. And so, as we speak today, fan zone hasn't developed any further since the last meeting either.
Oh, just a question for Alex. I've missed a few bargains at Asda on Saturday, waiting for your report. Is there any reason why you always go to the end, or is it Radio Lancashire's fault?
So I couldn't understand what you said.
No, I just said I missed a couple of bargains at Asda on Saturday, waiting for your match report at the end, your interview that Radio Lancashire gets. And we get you'll be either put on tomorrow morning or later. And we always have, well, every other club in the division gets 5 to 6 minutes. You get cut short to 2 to 3. But this Saturday, you wasn't on at all. On Radio Lancashire,
Yeah,
after the match.
Ben, give me a hand over here. Ben will sort of clear this one up for you. I'm not really quite sure.
The reason most of the time that we are last is because our press conference is held on this side of the ground and the press facility is on the far side of the ground. So the journalist has to walk all the way across here to interview Alex and then has to go back to upload it, so it takes a bit longer than some of the press facilities in the country.
Good. You'll have to upgrade your training and run across the pitch.
You're quite right, though, it's disappointing, and they used to keep Alex till the end because that kept all the listeners listening. And then actually it's cut off and it doesn't appear.
Can I also just say, and it's sort of building on what John just said about the fan zone, and that is that we are desperately trying to conclude the agreement to get the space back in the Sir Tom Finney stand. And in addition to the opportunity to put a fan zone in there, if at some stage in the future, I'd like to think it's not too distant future, but if at some stage in the future we were to be in the Premier League, there is a mandatory requirement for us to have the press facilities on the same side as the dressing rooms and on the same side as the cameras and all the media facilities. Now you will have noticed over the last couple of years we've changed the cameras from this side to that side, and our hope is that if we can get that space back under the Sir Tom Finney stand, we'll be able to put new dressing rooms in, put the media suite over there for when and if we're in the Premier League, and obviously a fan zone. So at that stage, if you're listening to Radio Lancashire, hopefully you'll hear Alex first.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, see, just on that as well, there's one other thing is, see, generally away teams, we normally let them go first because it's courteous, because some of them have got long distances to travel. Unfortunately, some away teams don't do that with us, but we tend to let them go first so they can go and do their media and then get themselves ready to go, and then I would go up afterwards. So, but generally, I just wait until Ben chaps the door and says, right, you need to do press, and that's me. So if you want to blame anybody, blame Ben.
Question for Alex, just regarding Andre Green. Not seen a lot of him at all since he joined from Villa. What does he need to do in terms of improving his game in order to break through into the squad?
To be honest, Andre's in a position where a lot of the other sort of lads who are not really featuring us in, which is, who do you take out of the team to put him in? Do you know what I mean? Because a lot of people say to me, oh, why am I not seeing so-and-so, why am I not seeing so-and-so? I say, well, that's fine, tell me a player you would replace him with. Yeah, well, Andre at the moment's actually got, he's got a problem with his big toe at the moment. He's got arthritis in it, which means he's had a few jags in it. So at the moment he's not actually currently fit. However, that's only been for the last couple of weeks. I always say this to my players, when you're in the team, your training that week is less important, because what you're doing is working yourself towards the game at the weekend and making sure physically and mentally you're in a good space. When you're not in the team, your training that week's even more important, because you need to make sure that that's your opportunity then to impress me and show everybody why you should be playing. So the difficulty you've got at the moment is with how well the team's been performing and how well guys have been doing in certain positions. It's been really difficult for some of the lads to get in. You know, and I think we could go right across the board with that. You know, Joe Rafferty wasn't in the squad at the start of the season and then got himself into the team and has never looked back. Josh Harrop wasn't in the squad at the start of the season, got into the team, never really looked back until he picked up an injury. Jaden Stockley, Louis Moult, I mean, there's a whole host of them there. But as I always say to people, picking the squad and picking the team is extremely difficult, because when lads are playing very, very well, the problem you've got is, who do you take out to put them in?
I mean, the simple fact is you can only pick 11 players, and then obviously only 7 for the bench. So my job's difficult to pick those lads, and dependent on the starting 11's dependent on the game and who's going to win as the game. Simple as that. The bench is different. There's some guys who maybe train particularly well, but they don't give balance on the bench. Because my responsibility is to make sure that every eventuality that I think is going to come in that game, I need to cover off in the bench. So if I need pace, albeit a player might have performed very well in training, the fact is the pacey player will be on the bench before him, because it's the best thing for the team. Because it's all right putting 4 of the same type of player on the bench because they're all doing really well, but they don't give us diverse enough options on the bench to then go and try and affect the game. If that sort of explains it.
Question for Alex. After the scare that we had with Stoke, how committed are you to the next 3 years? How committed are you to the next 3 years?
Yeah, no, listen, I think with the statement, I'm fully committed to the team and to the club. Do you know what I mean? So, to be honest, Stoke wasn't really, well, certainly from my perspective, it wasn't really a scare. Do you know what I mean? I think what tends to happen in the media is there's a lot of things blown out of proportion, there's a lot of speculation, people releasing things for TalkSport or whoever it was that sort of let it out. But as far as me and the players are concerned, it's just business as usual. I mean, unfortunately for me, I'm in a job where it's high profile and people want to talk about it and they want to talk about speculation. I think the difficulty you've got at times, like Peter said, is there's a time and a place to talk about things like that. I mean, I've got an important job to do and I don't need distractions for elsewhere that are going to be detrimental to the team and detrimental to what we're trying to do. So I felt it necessary, certainly after the West Brom debacle the season before, we felt it necessary to quash the rumours pretty quickly and be really quite straightforward with where we stand.
Thank you.
Let me just add to that as well. You've got 2 options in life. You either employ people that everybody else wants because they're very good, or you employ people that nobody else wants because they're not very good. And as we sit here at the moment, we're employing a manager that it would appear quite a few other clubs want, which suits us down to the ground, because it means we've got the right manager. And it's up to us then to create a working environment, which we believe we do, where he wants to stay here, not go somewhere else. And I think that was amply demonstrated 10 days ago.
Can I just say that with the departure of Neil Warnock from Cardiff City today, can you get a statement ready for them?
Well, I hope I'm not going to regret what I'm about to say, but in my opinion, there are some jobs that I think that I could understand our manager looking at and coveting, and some that hopefully he wouldn't. And therefore I'm not intending putting a statement together tonight.
So, following on from that, Peter, contract situation with players, obviously some of our best players are coming into the last 18 months of the contract. I'm hoping the club are trying the best to sign players, but I know it's very difficult on longer contracts. I'd like to see any signed on longer contracts before January, and if not, I know financially we won't necessarily be under pressure as a club, but from above or wherever, if in January, if say an offer comes in for Ben Davis, can we turn that down? We're not in a position where, because he's in the last 18 months of his contract, for example, we have to get rid of. I'm hoping we can keep this group of players together till at least May.
Look, the situation with all of our players and their contracts is something that we review every week. And I think over the last 2 or 3 years, in the main, we've done very well at securing the players we want to keep on longer contracts as and when we felt we were able to and they were prepared to sign. Clearly, we've lost 3 players for quite a lot of money, and our current league position would suggest that they haven't caused us any detriment by going. We have got quite a lot of the squad who have now got 18 months, or just over 18 months to go, who we would wish to keep. The one thing about this football club is it's got no debt, and it's got an owner who wants us to run it properly. He has given me his assurance that we are under no pressure whatsoever to sell any of the players that the manager wants to keep. And obviously we would like to feel, therefore, that the players themselves see, as we sit here at the moment, a real opportunity to take this club to somewhere it hasn't been since the early 60s. I do not envisage any of our key players leaving us in January without knowing exactly what's going to happen, but certainly we will not be entertaining any offers.
Following on from that, we're looking to recruit any players in January, if we can.
We've got, it depends who you count as part of our first team squad at the moment. And I think there are 26 that I've this morning written down and said, I think they're currently the first team squad members now. There's the odd player that might think they fit in that, who's the youngsters who have recently signed first year pro contracts. But I'm saying the players that Alex would see week in, week out as available for selections. There's 26. 18 of those have come since Alex joined the football club. So that's 18 out of 26. So what we have demonstrated, and will continue to demonstrate, that as and when the right players become available, that Alex and the club believe are the right ones to carry on the journey we've started, which is to get better all the time, we will try and secure them for the football club, whether it be January or whether it be next summer. But I think 18 out of 26 in 2 years and 4 or 5 months is pretty good going. Now, if Alex is really smart, he wants to add up who the 18 are. 3 of them, he will argue, had already been committed before he arrived, which was Declan Rudd, Sean Maguire, and who was the third one? Sorry? Josh Harrop, yeah. So 3 of them. But they hadn't played for the previous manager. But currently 18 have joined since the summer that Alex joined us, out of 26. So of course we'll be looking all the time, and in fact we've got Joe Savage, who goes out and spots talent for us and brings it to our attention, then we go and have a look ourselves. He's out at matches 3 or 4 days a week looking for people, because what you don't do in football is you stand still. You either go backwards or you go forwards, and we've no intention of going backwards.
At the beginning of the season, it was stated that there was intentions of creating an under-23 team. Did that ever take off, or has it been forgotten about?
Not by me, it wasn't. Never heard of it. The situation we're in at the moment is that under-23 football, with due respect to those teams who've got them, can't replace real competitive week in, week out football matches. So we would prefer to see some of our players who aren't in the squad playing on loan somewhere in real competitive matches. The other issue, to be absolutely frank with you, is we've got so much money to spend. That's predetermined. We get a budget at the start of each year. The owner's still putting substantial amounts of money in every season. And if we're given a choice, certainly if I was given a choice, I'd like to think Alex feels the same, I'd much prefer to spend as much as we can on the first choice, first team playing squad than have to carry a far larger squad of players who are just fulfilling an under-23 requirement. So, to the best of my knowledge, we haven't suggested it. And certainly with the financial parameters we're currently working in, it's better to have a first team squad of players who can play and those who need experience elsewhere putting out on loan to get competitive experience.
I think all would agree in the room how well Paul Gallagher's playing. What's your intentions to do with Paul when his career finishes? Is it to keep him at the club?
I think the difficulty in answering that question in a forum like this is, to have that conversation before we've had that conversation with Paul would be inappropriate in a public forum. All we can say, and I think it is in the public domain, is that Paul has already started coaching our under-16s. And he's giving a lot of his spare time, given how many hours the demands of training are for first team players. And therefore he's already indicated an area that he'd like to pursue post his playing career. Now obviously in the ideal world, if we can, somebody who's served the club so well, we would seek to see if we can find a slot within the club itself. And we're talking, Alex particularly is talking to him on a daily basis. But to announce an absolute definitive answer in a public forum without talking to Paul, I think would be difficult.
I've got a question for Alex. There's been a lot of speculation about our goalkeepers recently. How do you think Jonathan Gould's improved the goalkeepers and our defensive situation?
When you say a lot of speculation about the goalkeepers, what do you mean?
Just around the fans, maybe slagging Rudolph. Things like that.
Yeah. Well, I think that's unfair for a start. I think if you look at the situation of where we find ourselves in the league at the moment, every single player involved in the team has had a direct contribution to where we are. You know, Declan, I think, started every league match this season. So what I don't think you can do, regardless of the position, regardless of the player, is be sort of very outspoken and sort of criticise one player and then think all the other players are doing great. I mean, we're a team. I mean, I think Declan has done particularly well in certain games and maybe could have done better in other games, like most players this season. So I think that's really harsh. I think people naturally will have their favourites. That's always the case with fans. But Declan's had a good, solid season. I think Jonathan Gould's come in and added experience, a calm, cool head. And I think what he has done as well is he's been assisting in bringing on Jack Cudworth as well, who obviously was in charge of the goalies prior to John coming in. And what he's done is he's added a bit of experience to him as well and sort of helped him along. So, yeah, listen, we're a young group. And when I mean a young group, I don't mean just a young group of players. We're a young group of players, young group of staff in the main. And we like it that way because we want to give people an opportunity. That hunger and desire as a young, ambitious person, I think, is really, really good, provided you can sort of point it in the right direction. And I think Jonathan Gould's been a key factor in helping the goalkeepers, but also Jack since he's come in. So, yeah, I think we just want Declan to continue doing what he's doing at the moment, and fully expect Connor to be pushing along with Michael and Matt Hudson as well. So, I think all the departments at the moment are doing particularly well. I think it's difficult to pinpoint anyone that's been extraordinary or poor, should we say. I think everybody's done very well.
Are Josh Harrop's injury problems, are they short term? And could you give us an update on Tommy Clark?
Yeah, Josh Harrop, really, him and Billy Bowden are in a similar scenario this season. So if you look at Billy, he's had a couple of wee niggles, but when you have a serious injury that both had, you know, when you do a cruciate, a lot of the time you need to get your knee sort of reconstructed to a certain extent to build stability in the knee. And then the problem you've got for that point is other muscles around it are naturally trying to compensate. So what happens is you put too much strain in certain areas, the muscles that are not used to it. And what's happened with Billy and with Josh is unfortunately that compensation sort of has been too much really for some muscles. And it's not a major one. Josh Harrop, I would imagine, will be on the grass maybe after this week, starting probably next week training again. So he's certainly not going to be long term. And I think his injuries in the main have been put behind him. This is just sort of teething problems really coming back from such a substantial injury as your knee getting done. And Tom Clark is making good progress as well. I think the thing is with Tom, it's been the same injury that's happened quite a few times. So he's taken a little bit longer this time just to make sure that it's completely healed and he can get himself going again. Naturally, because he's a bit older, it's taking a little bit longer time.
As a reader of the Daily Mail, for my sins, there's hardly ever anything in there about North End, unlike the LEP with John Roper and Dave Seddon. However, when Alex was having his fun and games with Stoke, there was a big item there, and I wondered if Alex could help somebody who lives in the Whittingham Lane area like himself, regarding the description of the house that he moved to from Norwich, which it was said that the house in Grimston needed a lick of paint and much work doing to it. Would that be true, Alex?
I don't really even know what you're talking about. I genuinely don't know what you're actually even talking about.
Well, to be honest, it might do because he's decided to sell it and move. only a short distance. He's not going to the Midlands or anything.
A question for Alex. He's a great player and really committed, but how can we stop Ben Pearson getting the bookings?
To be honest, I'm actually quite surprised with some of the questions, particularly the last one. I don't know where that came from, but I think Ben Pearson's improved dramatically this season with his bookings. Do you know what I mean? So to suggest, even like the Declan Wood one as well, I think's harsh. I think we're sort of clutching at straws at the moment because we've got nothing to moan about. So. I think Ben, the one booking that I would be probably critical of was the last one.
Charlton.
You know, but what he tried to do is, if you look at the challenge back, it was a really high challenge in Joe Rafferty, and what he was going over was remonstrating, basically, because I think if Ben Pearson did that challenge, he'd probably been sent off. And that is why he was getting so frustrated. However, what I did say to him afterwards is there's ways and means of putting your frustration across to the referee, you know, and what you don't want to do is push it beyond that boundary where you get a yellow card. And unfortunately that cost him the last game. However, it didn't cost us. You know, we missed him for that game, we won the game. But I think he's been a very different player this season in terms of holding that back. I've been really quite pleased with him.
Yeah, question for Alex. I'm sitting in the Invincible stands, and what we see at the time is Daniel Fisher. He seems to run away from you, looking in fear, because you always seem to be telling him off.
Yeah. No, I think that Darnell, as you know, he's no shrinking violet, is he? Do you know what I mean? So, but yeah, I'm more forceful with some players than I would be with others, depending on their personality. You know, and I think Darnell, from time to time, if getting him with a little bit, sort of probably spurs them on more than anything else. So no, he's fine. He's fine. He's done. I think he's done a stellar job this season for us as well.
How did we manage to get hold of Patrick Bauer? One of the best signings we've made for a long, long time.
Yeah, it was something that, to be honest, me and Peter spoke about, I think, leading up to the end of last season. I think I mentioned it a couple of times in like post matches and even just towards the tail end of the season, talking about I felt we lacked a little bit of experience at times last year. You know, towards the end, I remember going to the last 8 games of the season, and I just felt that it stood out for me that we lacked sort of a real imposing figure and somebody with a little bit of experience that could sort of lend us a hand. And there's a variety of different ways that players come up. You know, obviously, certainly Peter gets a lot of agents putting players into him. Occasionally I get agents putting players into me, but certainly not as much as Peter. And then obviously, as I said earlier, we've got Joe Savage who goes out and looks at a lot of players. And I think initially, off memory, Patrick got put into me and Peter, I think, in the same week. Joe subsequently went and watched him in the playoff final. Obviously we got him clipped up, look at all these clips. And then we felt that certainly on a free would have been a great bit of business for us. And if I'm being brutally honest, he's turned out better than what I expected. You know, I knew I was going to be getting a good player, but I think he's been even better again. And that's all credit to him.
Yeah, I agree, he's been outstanding.
Yeah. And I think he really complements Ben Davies as well. You know, if you look at them as a partnership, two of them are very different, but when you put them together, they just sort of they blend off each other great.
I mentioned at the last forum about Josh Earl going out on loan. We've done that. Obviously, unfortunately, he got his injury. How's he doing? And is he back playing yet?
Yeah, listen, Josh Earl was one. I think we actually had a discussion after the forum, if I remember right. I think he came over. Yeah, Josh Earl was one where he's he broke into the team, did extremely well, you know, when Greg was missing. I think the difficulty we had when we signed Husey, he found it really difficult to get into the team at that point. And what you don't want to do with young players is you don't want to suppress them and stop them playing. And it was always going to be tough for him to develop in the manner which we wanted him to if we kept him here. Obviously, with the benefit of hindsight, we didn't know Husey was going to be out for a length of time. But to be honest, Joe Rafferty's went into that position and done remarkably well. And I think it's strange, sometimes you get right-footed players that play better at left back, and Joe probably fits into that category for me. I think he looked really at home at left back. And Josh Errol at the moment is out on loan at Bolton. He picked up a bad injury when he first went, but now by all accounts he's back playing, he's doing okay. So we just want to keep his development going, and the only way to do that really is to play regularly.
Can I just add, it goes back to the question about under-23s. Josh is far better playing at the moment for Bolton Wanderers in a competitive environment. He came back a couple of weeks ago, played left side centre half. He came as a substitute against Plymouth Argyle in the FA Cup on Saturday, and we need him playing, and he'll be far better for playing. So that's what we're doing, and we're now looking to see if we can get some of the younger pros out, like Adam O'Reilly, etc., to be playing competitive football, so that when they come back, because one of our best examples is Ben Davis. Ben Davis went to York, he went to Southport, he went to Hereford, I think, if I remember rightly, went to Fleetwood. And look at him now, because he was playing men's football at that age. And that's why Josh is there, and that's what we're trying to do.
Question about David Nugent. I don't remember reading anywhere what the length of his contract is. Can you tell us, please?
2 years, this year +1.
Very good. And my missus is also from Mel's Hill. So she's done by me, so there must be something in the water up there.
The only question is, what is it in the water up there?
Peter, what's the thinking behind playing the Lancashire Cup game at Springfield and not at Davidale? Is it Wednesday?
Yeah, the Lancashire Cup game is Springfield's 1 o'clock on Wednesday lunchtime. The pitch here is something that we're very proud of, and also the way that Alex and his teams play football. We try to make sure this pitch keeps in as good condition as possible. It's a competition that we don't have to play here, unlike the FA Youth Cup, which we do, and we're being drawn at home to Bristol City in the next round of that. And I think it's very important that we restrict the number of matches that are played here. So we took a view that said we'd prefer to play at Springfields. We're coming up to the more difficult time of the season to keep the pitch in great condition. And we also have a flurry of games due here between West Brom and Luton and Fulham in December. So we don't want it overused.
I suppose the supplementary question to that for Alex is, who can we expect to see on Wednesday?
What in terms of real play?
Yeah, we'll play,
Generally what we've done so far this season, we spoke about it last year, which leads into the little bit we were talking about earlier on about injuries, was just making sure that we've got a game schedule. So I think the guy was mentioning the 23s. What we actually spoke about was making sure we were considering entering into a sort of league. So there was meant to be a lot of Northwest teams entering into a league of some kind, and that was for the players who were featuring regularly. But what actually ended up happening was they had to extend the perimeter of the league because they didn't have enough teams, and then we had teams like Grimsby and all that getting involved in it. And the last thing I wanted was senior players travelling to Grimsby on a Wednesday night. Do you know what I mean? Because it's not appealing to anybody really. So yeah, so that wasn't meant the way it came across, but yeah. So what we did is, with the help of Ben, with the help of Tom Little, sports scientist, and to be honest, just the contacts we've got in the game, also Peter and everybody else, what we've done is we've sort of arranged a game pretty much nearly every 2 weeks for the lads that don't play, just to make sure they've got enough game time, and when they do come into the team they don't break down. And we use that Lancashire Cup as one of them. So what will happen is the lads who haven't been featured recently will all play in that game, as they have done for every bounce game we've had so far this season.
No, I mean, we put a strong team out at Church. It looked a strong team on paper.
It was everybody available that hadn't played on Saturday, and that's what we've continued to do. So the good thing with our lads is none of them are prima donnas. They're not sort of precious about where they play. I mean, the fact is they all understand that it's for one purpose only: one, to get their minutes up, get them match ready, and obviously you want to win the game as well and get themselves ready for the first team if they're going to be called upon.
Okay, thanks.
Sorry, can I ask again? We've just given new contracts to these young lads. Who's the best out of these young lads that we're expecting to see?
I think it's really difficult to answer that question. I mean, I think because if you turn around and say who's better between Ben Davies and Ben Pearson, I mean, your reply would probably be, well, he's a centre back, he's a central midfield player, and it goes for these young lads as well. You know, the three young lads we've gave contracts to. Jack Baxter's a sitting midfield player, Adam O'Reilly's more an attacking midfield player, and Jack Armour's left-sided centre-back or left-back, and young Ethan, but the reason I didn't count him, he's younger, he's the age group underneath him, and he's left-winger. So, yeah, Jack Armour at the moment is out playing with Lancaster and doing extremely well, so we're really pleased with his progress. Jack Baxter and Adam were trying to get out somewhere to get them game time. We found that difficult. We've even let them go out on trial at times to try and get interest, but at the moment that's been a stumbling block for us, so we do really need to focus on trying to get them out and get them games, but in their own way they've all got special talents, so it will really depend on how much they develop for this point going forward, and if the rate of development's better, whoever develops the best will be the one that's most ready.
The atmosphere at the last few home games has been excellent. A stroke of genius from the commercial department, offering the half-season tickets a month earlier than normal. How are the half-season ticket sales going?
Hannah, you're at the back there. Do you want to answer that?
Yeah, a lot better than last year. We're on 300 at the moment. In the last 2 years, we've done away 60 to 90 last 2 seasons, so it's really took off so far.
So the answer is we're over, what, 300? And historically we've only done high 60s, 67, 68. And as you say, we've launched them a lot earlier than normal, so we're hoping that by the time the Reading game comes around, which I think is the first game of the 11 for 8 or 8 for 11, I get it all the way around, the half-season tickets anyway, we're hoping there will be significantly more than 300, and frankly the way we're playing, there's no reason that I can think of that anybody who hasn't got a season ticket can use to not buy a half-season ticket, because season ticket holders hopefully will be praying that next season they're asking what the price is if they're ambassadors. Hopefully it might be nothing, and others will be what it will be, but there's every reason now to invest in a half-season ticket if you haven't got a season ticket already.
Well, it's very quiet compared to normal, which probably reflects where we are in the league, which we should be very grateful for. Are there any more questions? This is your chance to ask the key guys whatever you're dying to ask.
Just on the last one of season tickets, what is the ratio of existing season ticket holders on a gate attendance?
In round numbers,
Yeah,
it's
in round numbers,
it's
well,
about 8,000-ish season tickets holders versus a home crowd on Saturday, which was it just under 13,000 home crowd, wasn't it? I think it was 16,008 or something, and they brought 3,200, so I can't add up, so it's 12,700,
Yeah.
and 8,000 of them are season ticket holders in round numbers. I'm not an accountant, but it's about right, Kevin. Yeah.
No, you can average it, isn't it?
It's good.
Alex, I'd just like to thank you for the season so far. I'm 59 and I'm excited for it. First time in a long time. You're doing well, aren't we?
Well, thank you for that, and if there are no more questions, have a safe journey home. Thank you.